because you're going to be at a deficit of knowledge that is available to you right now if you don't. Dave McCormick. Listen, this guy has been not only a tremendous candidate, a tremendous success throughout his entire life. He's a good friend of the program. I think you've been here like 3 times now, maybe more.
An honor every time.
We're going to have to get him a jacket, Wolf.
Yeah.
You know,
Did I earn the jacket?
We're starting to get out jackets for people who come back enough and enough.
Man.
But the only reason that we have him back is because he's got insightful analysis about the world at large. And has a good idea not only about how things are done in Washington, what he's up to, but also just leadership. And you got a book. I want to talk about that in a minute. Dave McCormick, how are you?
Hey, good to be with you. I'm great. Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
How's the Senate treating you?
So far, so good.
Yeah,
you know, honestly, I mean, the thing about it, I know we'll tell a lot of jokes in this thing, but the thing that I want to say is I really feel like it's a privilege. I honestly do. When I stand in that chamber, you guys all know it well. It's tiny.
Yeah.
You look up at those marble statues.
Isn't that the thing that strikes you?
It's tiny.
I felt the same way about, when the State of the Union's happening. You're like, God, is this small? I thought it was a stadium.
Exactly.
And the Senate chamber is even smaller.
And you walk out and you see Thomas Jefferson, and you see Abraham Lincoln, you see Ronald Reagan. And so to be the senator from Pennsylvania at any moment's a big deal because there's only been about 1,000 elected senators in history. I'm the 54th from Pennsylvania. I'm the 9th in history from West Point. But then to be the senator for Pennsylvania at this moment, so much going on.
Oh man!
So I feel honored to be there, and I'm learning a lot and trying to keep up.
We got some plum committee assignments too.
Yeah. I'm on foreign relations and the chairman of the subcommittee in the Middle East and counterterrorism. I'm on energy, which was my first choice, and I'm chairman of the subcommittee on energy, and then I'm on banking, which has everything to do with affordable housing and capital, availability of capital for small businesses. And then I'm on the Committee on Aging because we got a lot of aging population.
Well, you had to have one bad one.
Listen, those aging people vote too. No.
That's true.
I'm almost kidding. But, I mean, the rest of those committee assignments, they don't give those away. And there's a couple of us at least that worked in the leadership offices where you'd kind of, you'd put these things together and then you'd come to a realization about mid-December after you see who is elected and what your membership looks like. Where you're like, who can actually do this job?
Right. Well, that's the point I was going to make. There aren't too many new guys who show up with the expertise you bring to the chamber. I mean, what you've done in your career delivers so much for Pennsylvania, delivers so much for America. And I mean, I got to think that everybody stops talking when you open your mouth and they want to hear what you have to say. Not in
my house. I got 6 daughters and my wife, who you know. So when I open my mouth, they say, "Shut up." In the Senate,
we all have
deeply. You know how that feels. But listen, I mean, I feel like I bring some things to the table, but man, I'm learning. Yeah. And in good ways and bad, like the way we conduct business. Yeah. I mean, it's so. Just give me an example. You'll know what this is like. For the first 12 weeks now, I've been mostly showing up to things on time.
Yeah.
I'm the first guy there every time. I don't know. I mean, nobody's on time. It's like the most ridiculous thing. But and the path to actually getting anything done, and we're in the majority.
Yeah.
But the path, just the other night, the 24 hours Cory Booker.
Oh yeah, that's
I'm
fun.
literally presiding. I'll tell you a funny story about that in a minute. But I'm presiding over the Senate from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., watching Cory talk about Social Security. And, this is a hell of a...
There's a debate.
It's a hell of a way to get things done. But let me tell you a funny story. You guys will get a kick out of this because you know the Senate. But because you're the junior guy, you get the worst assignments for presiding.
Yeah.
Right? So about 2 weeks ago, around the Votorama, I had the 6 a.m. slot.
Oh.
Then I had the 9 p.m. slot. And the 9 p.m. slot was just when all the action was happening. It was like 10 votes in a row. I'm presiding. Everybody's in the chamber. I got the gavel. Order, all over C-SPAN, all over CNN.
Yeah.
So I go back to my hotel room that night, and my phone rings. My dad's 87, mom's 85. My dad says, we saw you on CNN. Did you get promoted?
President of the Senate.
Isn't that the funniest thing about parents is like you can literally be a United States senator and they're like, you're not doing enough.
Exactly.
You need a promotion.
Exactly. But they said, did you get promoted? And I said, no, Dad. It's like this. It's like the shit assignment. Like you don't want to get this, and you don't want that slot. And my mom pipes in, with the confidence that only a mother can have. She says, they wouldn't put you up there unless you were doing very well.
So good.
I don't know what Pennsylvanians think, but my mom and dad think I'm killing it.
Yeah, if you're 95th or above in seniority with a pulse, that's your job. No, it's great. Listen, you've been doing absolutely terrific work. We follow what you do and what your staff does more closely than most because we know your background. We know you personally. We know that you have some understanding about not only markets, but all kinds of range of things that in your resume, and we've covered it before. I mean, it's like 10 miles long.
You know, serving in the military, then in the private sector. And then I guess you also have expertise in aging.
I do. Unfortunately, more than I'd like. Yeah.
There's some of that too. So I'm curious. Look, this is an incredibly consequential time, as you have said, and there's an element of sort of realigning the American economy and everything. You've heard what President Trump had to say about Liberation Day and his idea of reciprocal tariffs. Clearly, as this airs, there's going to be a lot of different opinions about that. I just want your take on where we sit with all of it.
Well, it starts for me. You know, I grew up in this rural Pennsylvania, Bloomsburg. In my town, when I was a kid in high school, was the McGee Carpet Mill. 2,000 workers. Mm-hmm. Today, we have the family farm is right outside that town. There's 200. Well, so when I was growing up, most of the kids in high school, their folks were involved with the mill or involved in some way. What's happened to America, rural America, the manufacturing base, and so forth, is the consequence of wide open free trade policies, which 20 years ago I was much more supportive of. The 500 stops I did on the campaign trail over the last year, 2024, you basically see this sense that for most Americans, the economy is not working. Mm-hmm. So in Pennsylvania, 60% of Pennsylvanians live paycheck to paycheck, right? If you have a transmission that goes down, it's like an existential event, right?
Yeah.
Housing last year alone went up by 11%, right? Inflation was up by 22% over the 3 years, and wages didn't keep up. So this is the part of America that was clamoring for change. We got to change. This is the America that primarily voted for President Trump. This is the America that primarily voted for me. It's a coalition that is at least unlike any in recent years in Pennsylvania. So in my case, both President Trump and I won more than 20% of African Americans, more than 40% of Hispanics, 2/3 of the trade unions at the national level. They endorsed Casey, they endorsed Harris. On the ground, the rank and file, they supported me and President Trump. The reason I start with that is that's who we have to be focused on, I think, both as a political matter, but as a substantive matter, because for them, the American dream that I've been the beneficiary of, Dina, all of you, that's not available for them. So that's where I'm coming from a policy perspective. So that's the first thing.
And it also speaks to, look, when you do realignments in American politics, it has to be for a reason. It's not easy to get huge numbers of people, like trade unions,
right.
to shift out of 50-year patterns of voting for one party. To do that, they have to know that you're going to do something different.
It's a change mandate.
Yeah,
it's a change mandate, and it comes from I want to give President Trump all the credit in the world for seeing it and laying out a vision. But it also is a byproduct of failure. Yeah. It's a failure of both parties. It's a failure of the old Republican Party to address that. And it's certainly a failure of the Democratic Party, which has truly become, just in the last certainly decade, the party of the elite. Yeah. Focused on a set of issues that are out of touch with at least most Pennsylvanians where I have expertise. So that's the first framing I want to say. Who are we working for? Yeah. That's the first thing. Second thing, I was a CEO of a couple different companies. The thing you hate most if you're a CEO is uncertainty. Yeah, that's it's the thing you hate most. And so that's what's framing what's going on right now. There's a lot of uncertainty. But let's start with where there's certainty. If you're a business person, if you're a consumer, here's what we have certainty on. We have certainty on we're going to have the biggest deregulatory effort since Ronald Reagan. I remember when he was elected in 1980, since that time where you had a huge growth spurt because of deregulation. Huge. Number two, we are going to pursue energy dominance. It's hugely important for Pennsylvania, unlocking energy, deregulation, permitting reform. That's coming.
Also a national security issue.
National security issue, and that's a huge wind at our sails. Third thing, we've already had President Trump's announced, and other companies, there's multiple trillions of new investment, foreign direct investment coming to the United States. It's Apple investing, it's Taiwan Semiconductor, it's Saudi Arabia. Huge inflow of capital. Big deal, trillions. And the fourth thing is we are going to get an extension, I think a permanent extension of the tax cuts. So we're not going to raise taxes, which would have happened under the Democrats. So if you're a business person, those are the four wins at your sail. And then the concern is the uncertainty around tariffs, which we now see a lot more. And tariffs that are reciprocal in pursuit of giving a fair shake to American workers are going to be effective.
Yeah, I want to nail down on that, and then we can move on. Look, I think there's a tremendous difference between how the Trump administration the first 4 years sort of framed the tariff discussion about, well, this is good, we'll make a lot of money basically taxing international trade, and how they're framing it now, and what we've seen over the last couple of months and how they're dealing with different countries who have this sort of thing looming, and they're talking reciprocal. Right, and they're laying out to the American people about, basically since World War II, we've had these massive imbalances in our tariffs as opposed to what they're tariffing upon us. And the idea of some sort of fairness clearly is never going to happen if you don't force them to have it. Am I reading too much into that, or is that this is like we're talking negotiations for the first time in 80 years here?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Well, first of all, the fairness principle is NATO, defense spending, it's trade, it's investment. There's a fairness across the board. But in the trade realm, we intentionally, it was in America's interest post World War II to help rebuild Europe, rebuild Japan. We gave the best deal in the world. We basically said, rebuild your economy and have access, unfettered access to the American economy. Then over time, that solidified, particularly in the Republican Party, which free trade's good for you no matter what the other side does. Right? Because you're going to get cheaper goods, and they'll eventually see the error of their ways.
And they never did.
They never did. China continued to screw us with subsidies, with lowering the cost of capital, with non-tariff barriers, with intellectual property theft. The Europeans are, huge tariffs. I was at the famous dinner with Trudeau in Mar-a-Lago. And Trudeau sat there right across the table and said, Mr. President, we don't have tariffs. And I had studied this a little bit, and I said, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, my state, Pennsylvania, has a huge dairy industry. We can't sell a quart of milk in Canada. What are you talking about? So we have not gotten a fair deal. And the effort to get a fair deal, I agree with. The important thing with the tariffs, and I haven't studied this closely, I've seen the initial chart, you're trying to either create fairness by slapping a tariff on that's commensurate with what the other side's doing, or you're trying to get them to eliminate their barriers. In an ideal world, everybody lowers their tariffs, and you're in an open, fair relationship. So the important thing is that the people on the other side understand what they need to do to get the tariffs lowered. And is it a currency problem? Are they manipulating the currency? Are they subsidizing like they do in China? There's huge government subsidies for the steel industry, as an example. Do they actually have a tariff? Are they blocking entry for U.S. beef into Japan? What is the thing you're trying to solve? That's what I think the next step in this will be.
That's fascinating. Fellas?
Yeah, I think the point that you were just making is the right one. And there's so many people in this country who actually have no idea the level of tariffs other countries are charging on us. And hearing President Trump just tick through the list of this country's charging us X, this country's charging us Y, it's illuminating to people because nobody's ever been told until now.
You wouldn't know.
Right, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. And so the reciprocal nature of what he's trying to do, I think, is it's revolutionary.
Yeah, I agree with you. And listen, the other thing I would say is, just being around this long enough, I served in the Treasury and in the President Bush administration. Think of the U.S. economy as an aircraft carrier. You got a bunch of dials, right? You got a dial on regulation. You got a dial on government spending. You got a dial on foreign investment. You got a dial on interest rates that the Fed has. You got a dial on tariffs. So what we want to do is get the aircraft carrier zeroed in on a path where it's starting to pick up speed. And some of those things may slow growth a little bit. So the tariffs, President Trump said they're going to be a little bumpy. We're not exactly sure what the impact's going to be. He's very forthright about that. But you got the other dials that are moving in the right direction. And listen, he's a business guy. So if there's some second or third order consequence that wasn't fully envisioned, which there may very well be, he'll adjust.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let's not be ideological about this. We want the economy to grow. We want to do good things for U.S. workers. So
the point is to point due north with a little less rudder.
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, I get it. I listen. I've not seen that world the same way over a period of time, but I've come around on this. I understand what they're trying to accomplish.
Right.
Part of doing that, however, is something you're also an expert on, basically since you were like a football player in high school, which is just leadership. And you wrote a book that you and your wife that I find absolutely fascinating. Let me grab a copy of this. Who Believed in You? And I want to know the concept. You have incredible voices, most accomplished Americans.
Yeah, what a lineup. You can really put together a team, huh?
We got a good lineup, yeah.
It's wild to me. I mean, look, you're connected more than anybody else, but give me the concept and how you
Yeah,
put it together.
it didn't start as a book. You know, the book's been written for a couple years. So what happened was
wow.
during COVID, we had our 6 kids with us. We have 6 daughters, 24 to 18. They were younger then, obviously.
What a blessing.
And they were, they weren't able to see their coaches, their teachers. We were all disconnected from human connectivity. Dean and I started to talk about how a couple mentors had changed our lives.
Yeah.
In my case, it was a high school football coach. He was like, I was a bench warmer in my sophomore year. The coach got fired. A new coach came in. He watched all the films, and I'd come in the fourth quarter when we were losing big or winning big. And he saw something in me, and he pulled me aside. He said, listen, you got a shot starting. He made me the co-captain my junior year. Changed my life. I ended up being an all-state football player. It got me into West Point. It was like a critical pivot point for Dina. It was Kay Bailey Hutchison, the senator, who saw her. She was a waitress in Austin, Texas, working in a restaurant, working in the state senate, and going to school at University of Texas. Kay Bailey said, "Why don't you come to Washington, be an intern, and get an opportunity?" Those kinds of mentorship relationships can literally change everything.
Yeah.
So we had that in our mind, and we started to talk to some of our friends who were very successful people. There's generals in here, captains of industry. There's Brian Grazier, who won the Oscar for A Beautiful Mind. There's David Chang, who was the famous chef. There's Tory Burch. There's Sarah Huckabee. There's Wes Moore. Not political at all. Just, hey, who believed in you? Who changed your life? And the stories are just incredible.
It's wild.
And so the book is not about the famous people. The book is about the people you've never heard of who made the famous people famous. And it's trying to reinforce the power of mentoring. I'll say one more word, which is the idea we're donating all the proceeds to veterans groups and mentorship groups. But the idea of this is to get every one of us, and I hope you guys will do this, who believed in you.
Yeah.
Right? Number one. Number two, have you said thanks? Because you're talking to these people that are bigger than ever, big, sometimes big egos, and it almost brings them to tears sometimes when they say, you know what, I never said thanks. They never knew how much they meant to me. And then the third question is, what are you doing to pay it forward? What are you doing to help somebody find their purpose and make a difference? Because by doing that, you can literally change that person's life, change your community, change the world, by those people, that next generation leading us forward.
Oh, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we all have our own
That's the thing.
stories and our own sort of pathways where there are pivotal moments like that. And it doesn't matter if you're, these people who've like conquered the world,
Right.
or whether you're just a successful part of your community. It all goes back to a central root of you believed in yourself.
Right.
Yeah, it's a great concept. That's why I wanted to ask you about the framework of it, because you have to be a certain point in your life, and I think you ran for public office at an absolutely perfect time in your life where you can have that perspective.
Yeah, and the thing, Mark, we were on Mark Levin the other night, and Mark Levin, as you know, is like a hardcore voice, conservative, pushing a strong conservative agenda, and he stopped and he said, this is, at the end of the day, when you're looking back on your life, you're going to look back on the relationships that mattered most, where you made the biggest difference. And so the book's it's kind of meant to be something bigger than the moment.
Yeah.
And it's almost spiritual about how we can each contribute. And one of the key lessons here, referring back to my race, is the first race is that everybody, the titans of the universe, they've all failed. Failure is part of success. In fact, I'd argue that failure is a thing that happens before success because failure is key to learning. And mentors are often the people that help you take the risk and help you dust yourselves off when you failed. And so helping people have the confidence to jump into the arena, if it's political life or business or whatever it is a big part of mentorship.
Yeah. It's huge, you know, and on this show, we always talk about just a bevy of people who have influenced us in media, and some of them we know better than others. You know, there's this guy who some people may have heard of, Rush Limbaugh, who some of us interacted with a little bit personally, but never to the mentorship level. But we like to say that his blood runs through our microphones and his song is in our soul, and we absolutely adore the guy, and everything that he did in his career, whether he knew it or not, laid the foundation for people like us to try our best to imitate what he's doing or what he did, you know. And so I think this topic is so important in society. It's about, you know, because you're working every day, you're putting in everything you have. You don't necessarily think about who's younger than you and what's going to happen when they're coming up.
Well, and almost so much of it is about taking the risk.
Yeah.
Right.
As you said.
Right.
You know, I mean, look, life is complicated.
Right.
But at some point, you've got, if you're going to be truly successful, like the people you have in this book, there's got to be a moment there where somebody inspires you to take a risk that you wouldn't ordinarily take on your own.
Yeah. No doubt. And, you know, in a funny twist of fate, Dean and I had a number of interviews with people beyond the book. And so Clay Travis, who has Rush's spot.
Yeah.
Clay and Buck have Rush's spot. And said some version of the same thing, and how Rush, as well as others, has sort of inspired him. And Byron Donalds talks about, in his business career, a woman who saw some real promise in him, and it helped. So it's very rare that someone didn't help you become you.
Right.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
and the thing we're trying to create here is intentionality around all of us to both be great mentors, but also as a gift to our children, to try to encourage them to find mentors that help them. And some of the mentors in the book are parents, but at least we found it's hard to be a great mentor as a parent because
you got your own stuff.
Yeah. And it hears different. It sounds different. The feedback, the tough love, it sounds different coming from someone who's not in your immediate family. So somebody you can really be vulnerable with, someone who shares your values, someone who is going to devote the time, and someone who's going to give you the confidence. Those are the 4 building blocks of a strong mentorship relationship.
Yeah.
Well,
so
listen.
You didn't just bring us the books, though. You also brought the beer.
I did bring the beer.
I want to drink it, so I need you to tell me about it.
So I have been to this. I have been to this brewery. This is Iron City, which is the key beer in Western Pennsylvania. It's beloved. There's Iron City and Iron City Light. I brought the whole milk version for you guys, and I want to show
whole
you
milk
this.
version.
And I want to show you this because this was my best day in the Senate since I came. When I was on the campaign trail, I was in Butler the day of the shooting.
Man.
And I was up on the stage, actually, in President Trump asked. So I literally missed being right in the line of the bullet by a minute.
Jeez.
And right before that rally, I met with Mark Fogel's mother. She's 95. So did President Trump. We both promised her that, you know, the moment we got in office, we'd do our best.
Yeah.
And she came and visited Dean and me in Pittsburgh. She sat on our couch. She cried. Said, "I don't think I'm ever going to see my son again." So I joined the Senate. President Trump's obviously elected. Marco Rubio comes before my committee. My first question is, "What are we going to do about Mark Fogel? What are we doing?" He said, "We're working on it."
I mean, this is the funniest thing. So we've sort of internally joked about this, about how everything you touch turns to gold.
Right.
The guy's in the Senate for like all of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then next thing you know, the priority that you talked about during the campaign trail where you sat down, like it's happening, and
Right.
obviously President Trump and his administration deserve an enormous amount of credit.
credit,
But he's sitting there and he's like, I guess
it's a little.
I guess we got it done.
It's a little Forrest Gump like. You know, I accept this. I accept the dumb luck associated with it. But so 22 days in, Mark gets released, and President Trump kindly invites us to the White House when he arrives, and so I'd never met him. I had talked to his mom. Obviously, she had come to our house in Squirrel Hill. So he walks in. He walks in the White House. He says, and I say, I'm Dave McCormick, and Dino's there with me. And he says, Mr. Squirrel Hill, my mom told me about visiting both of you. It was gave me hope. And Chris DeLuzio, who's the congressman from Pittsburgh, right outside of Pittsburgh, a Democrat and a Navy man, but I'm not holding that against him. Had the good wisdom to bring Iron City Light with him. And handed Mark a bottle.
Nice.
And so Mark, this is Mark in the Oval Office.
Man, what
and,
a great
Or not
story.
the Oval Office, but the White House, rather. And it was really, honestly, my best day.
It's so cool.
And then to talk to his mom and to talk to him. And there were so many great things about it, which is you see all this effort come to fruition. But it was also for him to be back, to know America stood with him.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really
I mean,
quite
it's such a great story because when Obama was president, we all remember when Brittany Griner was brought back and Mark
Biden.
Fogel was just sitting there by himself, like, "Hey, wait a minute, I'm a teacher. What am I, chopped liver?"
Right.
You know, like nobody.
Sorry, I can't dunk.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
you know?
And then Trump gets in, and you're working for it, and he comes back. It was a triumph. It was such a great moment for our country.
President Trump, Witkoff, Marco. I mean, it was a huge team effort. They led the charge. It was great to be.
Oh, it's so great. Listen, Pennsylvania, you made a hell of a choice.
Yeah, outstanding work.
We're going to be watching everything you're up to because it's not only with heart, it's with purpose, and you actually have a resume and a background to be able to do it smartly. I mean this sincerely. We watch your stuff in a different way than we watch everybody else's stuff because we feel like it's kind of a precursor.
Is it because of Azakowitz? I mean, let's spend a minute
Talking about his chief of staff.
Yeah, let's spend a minute. He's trying not to be, but
all of us feel like we've worked for
we've all worked
Azakowitz
for
at
it.
some
Right.
point. Yes.
So, but the thing that is the lesson of life, and this is the lesson over and over again, is if you can surround yourself with people who are
You're right.
incredibly capable and better than you will succeed.
It's the theory of the show.
It's right.
Honestly.
This is it.
Yeah.
And so in business, that was in the military, and so one of the great blessings is Mark agreeing to join the effort with me. We're both the same age. We both want to give back.
Did you have like blackmail on him?
No,
Like,
apparently, but maybe Dina did. Dina's known him for 25 years, and we had dinner, and we're asking, we're asking what a good chief of staff would look like. Not thinking
you did
he
the Dick Cheney move?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
He did. No, he did. He didn't do the Dick Cheney. He didn't do it. I would say he did not do the Dick Cheney. We did the Dick Cheney move. So we then went back to the hotel room, and I said to Dina, "Is there any chance you think?" She goes, "Long shot, but I'll ask him." And so I called him, and he said, "Well, let me think about it." And God bless. 2 weeks later,
Here
he
we
said he was
are.
going to join the effort, and there is nothing better than to walk down the hall on Congress, and people say, "You won that one, good job." And they said, "You hired Mike Azakowitz." Oh my God, I can't believe it! It's a much bigger thing than actually winning the Senate seat in Pennsylvania. But blessed to have
listen,
Mark and a great team.
Dave McCormick, an absolute gentleman, somebody who's in this for all the right reasons. A lot of lessons of leadership. Watch this guy, folks. Just watch what he does. I'm telling you, you're going to learn a lot about what the future looks like.
Thanks,
Appreciate
buddy.
you coming by.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for
so
making
much.
this work. Good to
you.
see y'all.
Man, I just absolutely love that guy. He's so smart. He does such a good job for Pennsylvania. They're so lucky to have his point of view representing them in the Senate, and we're lucky that we could have him on the show today.
He's
Yeah.
a pal, friend of the program.
I mean, I paused right there. I mean, I'm going to go back and see the video of it. But like when he said, "Have you said thank you to that person?" I was like, I have not. I got a phone call to make.
I thought about it
Terrific.
deeply.
Yeah.
Like it like affects me.
Yeah. It
you
was like
know?
a pay it forward sort of mentality to life that I really appreciate.
Yeah. Talk about a guy who got into this line of work exactly the right time in life with perspective.
And for the right reasons,
experience.
clearly.
Yeah. It's so good. Thank you to Dave McCormick, your entire staff, for making this happen. Fellas, I think we did it.
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode. Gentlemen, thank you so much, Minions. Remember, like and subscribe to the YouTube if you have not yet already. Thank you so much to Senator McCormick. Thank you to the Minions voting in Hack Madness. Go to my profile and vote. So until next time, Minions, keep the faith, hold the line on the libs. We'll see you Tuesday. Stay ruthless.